One thing you didn't ask about the game was the field goals. What happened?
Yeah, we had a couple protection issues inside that we need to shore up. They got tipped, so we got to get that straightened out.
Both of them were tipped? Second one tipped?
It's tough on the film to see, but it was close.
As far as just general takeaways on the film in general?
I thought our defense played outstanding. You know, they were 1 of 11 on third down. I think 0 for 4 on fourth down. They were relentless in terms of their pressure on the quarterback. I thought they did a great job. You know, the receiver coming into the game had an unbelievable game the week before. You know, and for us to kind of keep him contained was a big part of the game plan. So I was really, really impressed with how our defense played, and then I thought our offense played. We were efficient, you know, and when we don't turn the ball over, we can be pretty good on that side of the ball, and that's what we did.
I know you hit on it a little after the game, but can you expand on what Ethan did so well last week that justified him?
Well, Ethan's done everything well since he's been here, so it's not just last week. It was at the beginning of the week. Ethan got a lot more reps in practice because Dante was banged up, so over the course of the week, we decided we were going to go with Ethan.
How has Dante progressed, you know, from being banged up?
He's good. He ended up, if you watch the game, he played.
Yeah.
You know, so he got really good towards the end of the week. So, you know, you played those 3 games that we played in a row, can take a toll on you physically. You know, playing Utah, playing Oregon State, playing Washington State. So, but he's back. He's full go. And, you know, we're one of the fortunate teams in the country. We have depth at quarterback. I believe Ethan's the starter at the Power 5 level. Dante's the starter at the Power 5 level. And Colin Schlee's the starter at the Power 5 level. So that's a luxury that not a lot of people have.
What is the status of Schlee for?
Schlee's available.
So who's the start at Power 5 level on Saturday?
What the starter on Power 5 level today is what we worry about, and I'll answer the question for the 10,000th time for you, Ben, as we make our decision at the end of the week. So I couldn't tell you who's going to be up or down by the end of the week, and when we get to the end of the week, we sit down as a staff and we'll go through it. So.
And because of the juncture of the game when Dante got in, I think it was a 35-point game at that point.
Mm-hmm.
With him getting a series, was there any, I guess because he was banged up, any chance that it was maybe a gamble or anything like
No,
that?
not at all. Just If you listened earlier, I said by the end of the week he was really good. So we would never put a kid in the game if we thought there was a chance of injury.
What did you see out of your run game on film?
I thought we did some decent things. You know, we need to continue to stay and sustain blocks longer down the field. But obviously, I think when you have someone like Carson or TJ, I thought TJ hit a real big one for us there in the third quarter. They're both have great vision at the line of scrimmage. You know, they usually make the first person miss, or it's very difficult because of their contact balance that they can stay on track. You know, they're always moving forward as they go. You know, I think we're continuing to rush for 200 yards plus a game, which is a positive. You know, we're pretty balanced in terms of our production offensively, in terms of rush game, pass game. So we'll always be, I think, pleased, but we're never satisfied. I think we can always be better, and we'll continue to work on that as we continue to grow as a team.
What are your initial impressions of Colorado?
They're outstanding speed. You know, I think especially on the offensive side of the ball. You know, Edwards at running back, and then that trio of receivers with Weaver, Horn, and Hunter. They all can really run. They can all really go. I think Shador has a great grasp of that offense. Got a really good understanding of it. Does not put the ball in harm's way, and he's really, really good with the football. And they got a good scheme on the offensive side of the ball, you know, to get those guys going. And then defensively, they got a bunch of guys running around getting to the football. So it's a good football team. They're battle-tested. They've played a lot of good games. They played close games. You know, they had a couple that an overtime win against Colorado State. They lost in double overtime to Stanford. So you've seen them, you know, in really close football games, and they compete and they play hard.
What does that say about a quarterback? I think Shador is one of the most hit quarterbacks in the country. I know he's taken a ton of sacks, and yet he's managed to avoid turnovers.
Yeah, it says a lot about him. I mean, I think he's he's certainly in the conversation for top quarterbacks in the country in the way he's playing right now. He's got a lot of poise. You know, and it's a different deal now for quarterbacks, and I don't think people really appreciate, but I would say that the best quarterbacks are probably the toughest quarterbacks, the guys that can stand in there, even though there's a rush coming, and still deliver the ball where it's supposed to be and not putting it in harm's way. And he does that a ton. You know, I think, you know, he's the key. So how he goes is how that offense goes. So, you know, that's what our attention is this week is we need to try to disrupt the timing of the routes, and then we really need to get pressure on the quarterback.
A good play at Kane this year. He really stood out seemingly against Stanford as well. What have you seen on his development?
Yeah, I think Kane's been outstanding this season. You know, and he's he's really made that full transition from receiver to linebacker. He's such a versatile athlete. He can play out in space, but he's also big enough to play in the box. So I think we're really, really pleased with how he's playing right now, and he's playing at a really, really high level.
A lot's been made about in the offseason about how Colorado's roster was constructed. Obviously, you yourself, you've used the transfer portal quite effectively. Could you ever imagine a situation where you had to replace so many scholarship players like they did?
It's just a new era. You know, when I came in 5 years ago, 6 years ago, you couldn't do that. Now you can. It's just how you do it and how you choose. I think you evaluate the players in the program and see where they are, and then, you know, can you get players to upgrade at that position? And that's what Coach Sanders, that's what Dion's done. So, you know, and the record speaks for itself. I think they were 1-11 last year. They've won 4 games this year, so it's working. You know, he's done a great job there, and we're going to have a battle on Saturday against him. So,
Speaking of Dion, he wasn't at Pac-12 Media Day, but have you had a chance to speak with him or interact with him at all in the past?
Yeah, I know him. He brought Shador to camp, so we had Shador here at camp a couple years ago. I think he's great. I think he's done an unbelievable job there. I think he's great for college football. You know, I think the attention and the buzz that he's brought to this game. But I also admire him. He's a little bit old school, you know, in terms of his approach, in terms of how he does things. And I think it's the same way he was when he was a player. You know, he had a tremendous amount of talent, but he's got an unbelievable work ethic in terms of what he does and how he performs and what he puts into it. And I think that's what he's asking from his players, and that's what he's getting from his players. So it's really impressive what he's doing.
You ever prioritize scholarship recruits?
What's that? We have done that. Yeah, we have. We actually have. Blake Lesnar is on scholarship, so we took him in the transfer portal this past year.
There were a couple of games that were decided around the country by, let's say, interesting decisions on when to go for 2. How do you, are you strictly on the analytics and the chart, or do you go by feel certain times on when to go for 2, especially when you're trailing?
What games were those?
Well, the SC game, obviously, they missed on the two-pointers.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's 2 sides to it. I think all of those is that there's the analytics part of it where you're, you know, looking at the numbers and really how many possessions are left in the game. And then when do you want to go for 2? Are you going to try to do it early so that if you don't get it, then you can try to pick it up later? Or are you going to just try to get as close as you can and then hopefully on the last score you try to get it there? So I think it depends on the game and how it's going. You know, how do you feel like you're moving the football? What are they doing? Did you lose any personnel going into the game? Because you have an understanding going in, but I think it could change as the course of the game goes along. So it's all part. I think everything is part of it. I don't think there's a hard and fast answer in terms of you have to do this. Most of those decisions are made in the, you know, as you get to the fourth quarter, but you're also calculating how many possessions are left so that you can put yourself in those situations. So, you know, we study it and we talk about it every week, and then we have a plan going in each week what we're going to do. But then as the game expresses itself, you talk about it, and we talk about it a lot on the sidelines. When are we, you know, where are we? This is what we're saying. This is what we talked about on Friday. All right, we're staying with it, you know, and we'll go with it. But it's one of those deals. If it works, it's like, wow, what a great idea. But then if it doesn't work, it's like, what are you, an idiot? You know, so that's what the game's all about. You know what I mean? So it's interesting because I think a lot of people in the analytics world, or not in the analytics world, or just people watching games, is they automatically assume you should go for 2, thinking that you're going to get it every time. And you also have to factor in the percentages of are you going to get it, you know, and if you're chasing points and if you miss, like you just said, going for 2 twice and then you lose a game by 2, you know, you can sit back there and say, hey, maybe we should have kicked those 2. But you can't predict what the future is going to be, so. You know, it's you got to make the decisions in the heat of the moment and based upon the information that you have available to you.
I know some schools have used like third-party vendors to do their analytics part of it. Do you guys do that? Or
we have an analytics group here that we have people that we've hired to do that. So the same type of things and run algorithms and on a weekly basis, and then we sit down and discuss them. You know what it says in certain situations we should do, and you know let's unpack that a little bit. So, but we do that in-house, sir. You good? All right, thanks, guys.